Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, January 5th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. They are tests many children can't wait to take, and right now they're being distributed to schools across the county. We'll have more on that in just a moment, but first tonight, the continued surge is having an even greater impact on staffing among the region's largest employers. Our coverage begins with KPBS reporter Eric Anderson.
The Omicron variant is now the region's dominant COVID strain, and the virus is driving record numbers of infections. The region's biggest employers, like Sharp Healthcare, are being buffeted by the disease.
At present, we have 525 Sharp team members who are COVID-19 positive and currently not working. And without a doubt, as I said, the current Omicron surge is exacerbating, which is what has already been a difficult situation in terms of staffing.
Sharp CEO Chris Howard says there are fewer people being treated for serious COVID ailments this year compared to last winter's surge, but he says there are fewer people to care for those who need medical help.
We have 250 hospitalized patients today versus the 600 we had a year ago. So we're not near the capacity we were this time last year, nor are other facilities.
UC San Diego's medical complex is also feeling the crush of new infections. That hospital facility has more than 600 positive COVID tests among staff members in the past week.
From the very first patients that we took from Wuhan, China, when the first planes landed in Miramar, and to now, this has been where I've been the most concerned about where we sit. And it's just because every day so many staff are going out.
Mason says 196 UC San Diego health staffers have had positive tests in just the past 24 hours. San Diego firefighters have cut back on services because of infections, and all of the county's largest employers are riding out the wave of infections linked to the rapid spread of the Omicron virus. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
And amid that surge in cases, California is extending the indoor mask mandate for another month. It took effect on December 15th and was set to expire January 15th, but now it will remain in place through at least February 15th. Masks must be worn in all indoor public settings, regardless of your COVID vaccination status. Some San Diego County school districts and charter schools received relief today in their desperate search for COVID-19 home test kits. KPBS education reporter MG Perez visited at First Come, First Served distribution site.
This truck is headed to the Chula Vista Elementary School District, loaded with COVID-19 at-home antigen rapid test kits. The Poway Unified School District, Escondido Union, and Jamul Dulzura districts scored big too. They were some of the lucky ones.
The response was overwhelming. We've got 42 school districts, 130 or so charter schools. So it's a lot of people competing for a limited, scarce number of test kits.
Based on Governor Newsom's December promise to provide 6 million rapid tests to public schools across the state, the San Diego County Office of Education requested 500,000 test kits to cover students here. They got 193,000 of them in these boxes delivered late Tuesday. The word went out, and within minutes, they were all reserved and then distributed on a first-come, first-served basis today. Hector Corona is the Director of Student Services for the Darnell Charter School in Southeast San Diego, which has 512 students in kindergarten through 8th grade.
Anxiety levels a little bit up, especially right now with the surge that's going on. But we're doing as best as we can. You know, we're maintaining the safety protocols, and you know what? We're there to serve our students.
Districts that did not get supplied today are now on a waiting list for a future delivery whenever that happens. Nancy Hensley showed up, mistakenly thinking she could get a rapid test for her 8-year-old son.
Some people in our household came out positive, and we need to send him back to school, so I want to test him again, just to make sure that he's okay.
The surge in COVID cases and confusion has forced educators and school officials to change directions constantly. Public health in the new year is now as important as learning. San Diego Unified has put a pause on off-season extracurricular activities for the rest of the month in an attempt to stop the spread of COVID. A written statement said, in part, after consulting with our medical experts and to lessen the possibility of transmission through the highly contagious Omicron variant, the district has instituted a pause to off-season athletic practices for the remainder of January. San Diego Unified continues to monitor and assess the threat. The district received its rapid test shipment before winter break. These valuable boxes are on their way to other students around the county, waiting to know if they have COVID or not. MG Perez, KPBS News.
The spring semester at SDSU will be starting online when classes resume this month. Today's announcement follows the surge in COVID cases we're seeing after the holiday season. The semester starts on January 19th and will remain temporarily virtual through at least February 4th. In-person classes are scheduled to start on February 7th. According to CSU Guidelines, all students, faculty, and staff are required to get a booster and have it on file by January 18th to be considered fully vaccinated. SDSU has also asked students who live on campus to delay their return until the beginning of next month if they can. Tension and concern over the Omicron variant has hundreds of schools nationwide closing their doors. This as teachers' unions call for more remote learning until the surge subsides. More now from reporter Daryl Forges on the frustration by parents, too.
COVID numbers soaring nationwide. Hospitalizations now at about 113,000, according to the Department of Health and Human Services.
This could be our new normal going forward. Every year or every few months even, we could be seeing these massive surges of cases.
The COVID surge impacting some school systems. In D.C., students must have a negative COVID test before returning Thursday. Detroit delayed school return going virtual through at least January 14th.
That's the safest thing to do. In the city of Detroit, where infection rate is over 7 days, is exceeding the 40% range.
In Chicago, classes are canceled after the teachers union voted to go virtual. The school system considers the move a work stoppage, and teachers will not be paid. The teachers union does not believe the current measures in place are safe enough to return to school.
We've been failed by the mayor. We've been failed by the public health office. And teachers and the school staff have decided the only thing that we get control is whether we go into the buildings.
The country's third largest school district insists going to class in person is safe because of mitigation measures. The Biden administration provided billions of dollars in funding for resources for schools during the pandemic and believes schools are safe for kids to go back.
Parents want schools open, and experts are clear that in-person learning is best for kids' physical and mental health and for their education.
Daryl Forges, KPBS News.
A CDC Vaccine Advisory Committee has voted to recommend expanding Pfizer boosters for children ages 12 to 17 at least 5 months after the primary vaccination series. On Monday, the FDA expanded the emergency use authorization for the age group. And the CDC is also out with new guidelines on COVID isolation, but not without some controversy. Coming up on Evening Edition, we'll break down the revised rules and new concerns. Nearly 1 year since the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, Attorney General Merrick Garland is vowing to hold accountable those responsible.
We will defend our democratic institutions from attack. We will protect those who serve the public from violence and threats of violence. We will protect the cornerstone of our democracy, the right to every eligible citizen to cast a vote that counts.
Thousands of pro-Trump rioters stormed the U.S. Capitol building on January 6th in an attempt to stop the certification of the 2020 election. Garland says the Department of Justice is committed to prosecuting all those involved, whether they were physically there or not. An iconic landmark is getting some much-needed repairs thanks to a generous donation by a local organization. Here's KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel.
The iconic Junipero Cera Museum sits on Kumeyaay territory in Presidio Park. The historical site was the first permanent European settlement in 1769 in what is today the state of California. And the 93-year-old museum is in need of restoration.
Not long ago, this building was starting to show its age.
Mayor Todd Gloria says the Cera Museum is vital in keeping San Diego's heritage alive.
This restoration will help further that. It'll attract more people to come to this site and understand the storied history from the original San Diegans to the present day and to the many people in between.
The Conrad Prebys Foundation is making sure that happens. They're giving the San Diego History Center $330,000 to restore the north tower and east facade of the Cera Museum. Chair of the foundation, Tony Cortez, says the foundation was pleased to be able to grant the award as the site is a sacred place for many.
I've got a bit of a soft spot in my heart myself for this location. My wife Sarah and I, 43 years ago, were married on the hillside. There's a little concrete footbridge.
The restoration work is expected to be completed by mid-February. Work crews are already on site and working on North Tower. While Junipero Cera has become a controversial figure of late, officials did not want to discuss the issue during today's ceremony. Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
While the pandemic has ravaged much of the cross-border economy, Tijuana's maquiladora industry has flourished. KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis shows us what's behind the resurgence.
This is the sound of Tijuana's booming maquiladora industry. The daily thunder from thousands of cargo trucks shipping goods into the U.S. through the Otay Mesa border crossing. And these trucks carry everything from Topo Chico hard seltzer to Toyota Tacomas assembled just outside Tecate. Each one is a sign of what's shaping up to be a new roaring 20s for Tijuana's maquiladoras, which are manufacturing and warehousing facilities along the southern border.
This is undoubtedly the most exciting and the most dynamic time period we've had in the maquiladora industry for decades.
Ernesto Bravo works for Tecma, a company that helps foreign businesses move to Mexico. And they've been doing it since the 1980s. So that makes Bravo a resident historian for the bustling border town's maquiladora industry.
The industry was born really in the 70s. It grew significantly in the 80s and the 90s. In the 2000s was a bit of a challenging period with China coming into the WTO, the World Trade Organization, and enjoying certain benefits in terms of international trade with customs and duties and all that kind of thing. A lot of manufacturers actually migrated to China.
But over the last few years, those companies that left, they're coming back.
We have seen reverse migration, if you want to say, from Asia to Mexico as companies realize that they need to be closer to their clients, and with the U.S. being the #1 market in the world for everything, virtually, you want to be the closest place you can be and still enjoy somewhat of a low cost of labor relative to other countries. Mexico is definitely your closest choice to get into the U.S. market.
The pandemic has made it abundantly clear that saving money by shifting manufacturing away from North America is a bad bet. Mauricio Tortolero heads the real estate division at the TP legal law firm in Tijuana. He witnessed firsthand what happened to businesses that expanded supply chains before the pandemic. One of his clients thought they could save money by opening a manufacturing facility in South America, but...
And when the COVID situation started, that product wasn't able to come or to arrive here in Mexico or in the U.S. in time. So all their operation got delayed, and it was a big problem for the company. So now that they saw that, well, we cannot set up all the way to South America, even though this and this, we may have this and this benefit, we need to set up closer.
The fastest growing sector in Tijuana's maquiladora industry has been fulfillment centers. These are essentially repackaging and shipping warehouses that take advantage of a little-known section of the U.S. tariff code to avoid paying fees on certain imports. Under Section 321, companies don't have to pay fees as long as they ship items worth $800 or less directly to U.S. customers. So instead of shipping items in bulk into the country, companies are setting up fulfillment centers just south of the border. The result is these centers are popping up all over Tijuana. Compared to just a year ago, the growth has been
10 times at least. 10 times, and we know that probably is going to grow more.
Adriana Eguia works for Vesta, one of the biggest industrial developers in the region. She says the popularity of fulfillment centers is driven by changes in how we shop, as much as it is by disruptions in the global supply chain.
We used to go to shopping centers physically, but now, since a lot of people are now into lockdowns or need to be at home, and there's money also still coming to the homes, people are doing that, right? They're buying things from home, and since you need a structure for that to happen, that's why Tijuana changed a lot in terms of now having fulfillment centers because of the demand.
Experts who follow Tijuana's maquiladora industry are bullish on the market. Demand is high, and the underlying conditions behind this boom don't seem to be going away anytime soon.
Unless there is a change or unless there is a specific, something catastrophic happens, I think that we will continue to see growth in the sector.
But there is at least one big potential roadblock: Tijuana's infrastructure. Businesses need stable sources of water and power to run warehouses. They need roads to transport goods across the border. And they need a reliable transit system for their employees to get to work on time. Historically, Tijuana has not invested in infrastructure, and that could come back to haunt the city.
What needs to happen now is a lot of will from governments and business people to put on investment into the infrastructures of the cities, because if we keep on growing and there's no more roads and security and lighting and everything that the city needs in order for keep on the growth, it's going to collapse.
But for now, expect the trucks to keep on rolling at Otay Mesa. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
CAL FIRE now says power lines sparked the Dixie fire in Northern California, which burned nearly 1 million acres last summer. State fire officials say it started last July after a tree hit electrical distribution lines in the Sierra Nevada. The Dixie fire swept through 5 counties, destroying more than 1,300 homes and other buildings. PG&E already said its equipment may have been involved, and it's facing legal action for other fires. Conserve water or else. That's the message from the State Water Resources Control Board. The new mandatory restrictions adopted on Tuesday by the board mean Californians will be fined for watering their lawns within 48 hours of a rainstorm. Fines may also be issued for letting sprinkler water run onto the sidewalk. The fines could be as much as $500 and will be enforced by local officials. Governor Gavin Newsom's goal for a 15% water use decrease has fallen short, spurring this conservation mandate.
We have a little bit of a bumpy ride here on the temperature roller coaster ahead, with some temperature swings likely through this weekend before we warm up nicely heading into next week. No real rain in the forecast either. May have a little bit of some increased cloud cover, but aside from that, it is a mainly dry forecast with, again, slim pickings on the rain chances. As we move into tonight, temperatures fall back down to about 50 in San Diego, 45 in Chula Vista, 44 out towards Mount Laguna, 46 in Borrego Springs. Thursday, it's a fairly quiet day. Southwest is looking at dry, comfortable conditions. That storm track stays well off to our north, and temperatures get up into the mid-60s in Oceanside, 70s from Escondido out towards Ramona, El Cajon, 65 in San Diego. And then Friday, it's a nice and warm, dry day here across the Southwest. We will have a little bit of moisture getting into Northern California, but elsewhere, nothing to complain about and nothing to worry about. Looking ahead to the coast, over the next 5 days or so, temperatures are again going to warm up a little bit, then cool off a little for Saturday, and then after that, we'll be warming on up. We could see a little bit of some increased cloud cover here with a increased onshore flow this weekend, but next week we look to return to more of a ridging pattern. In fact, we'll be close to 70 by next Monday. Further inland, temperatures go from the 70s back into the 60s Friday, Saturday, And then heading into Sunday, we're back up into the low 70s. We'll hold on to the upper 60s and low 70s here as we move into next week. Again, a little bit of some increased cloud cover there possible for this weekend. In the mountains, temperatures go from the 50s back into the 40s, low 40s by Sunday. Cloudy, chilly day, but boy, upper 50s to start off the next work week on Monday with plenty of sunshine. And in the deserts, temperatures really not changing a whole lot here through the next 5 days. Low 70s, a little bit of some increased cloud cover this weekend, but not going to affect their temperatures. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
The CDC has released new guidance on COVID-19 isolation and testing. But as Americans face unprecedented numbers of COVID cases, the revised guidelines are causing some confusion. Mandy Gaither breaks down the new advice.
As new COVID-19 cases reach a record high, Omicron is fueling the fire. The CDC says the variant accounts for 95% of U.S. infections.
The coming weeks are going to be challenging.
The CDC says most of the virus spread happens early, typically 1 to 2 days before symptoms start and 2 to 3 days after. If you test positive for COVID-19, the CDC recommends you isolate for 5 days. If asymptomatic or are feeling better without a fever for at least 24 hours, that should be followed by 5 days of wearing a well-fitting mask around others. If you're exposed to COVID-19 and unvaccinated or not boosted, quarantine for 5 days, then mask for an additional 5 days. If you can't isolate yourself in those initial 5 days, any exposed person should wear a well-fitting mask when around others for 10 days after exposure. If they have access to a rapid test, the CDC says take it at or close to day 5 after exposure. If the test is positive, you're advised to remain isolated until 10 days after symptoms started. If you're vaccinated and boosted, you don't need to isolate after an exposure, but should wear a mask around others for 10 days afterwards.
Get vaccinated and get boosted if you are eligible. Wear a mask. Stay home when you're sick and take a test if you have symptoms.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Our newsroom is following the latest developments in the pandemic at kpbs.org. Just click on the Tracking COVID-19 tab under News on our homepage, and there you'll find all of our reporting as well as resources.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, how misinformation still threatens our democracy 1 year after the attack on the U.S. Capitol. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
San Diego County schools are reporting a drop in the tally of unhoused students, but advocates say the decline in these numbers is no cause for celebration. iNewsSource investigative reporter Chloe Wynn explains.
Each year, public schools are required to give the state a tally of the number of homeless students they have enrolled. The requirement is part of something called the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act, designed to ensure that students get the help that they need. But as the number of unhoused students has steadily declined during the pandemic, advocates say the data doesn't match what they're seeing on the ground. Challenges during remote learning, like unreliable internet and worries about turning on web cameras, cause some students to drop out of school and fall off enrollment lists. On top of that, identification of homeless students isn't always easy. Destiny Dickerson recently graduated from San Diego State, but during her high school years, she and her family struggled with stable housing. She says her family tried to hide their situation from the school.
And so a lot of it was just like the stigma of it, at least I think on my mom's end. And then for me, there was a little bit of a fear of getting in trouble, like if people found out that we weren't being properly taken care of, like we didn't have stable housing and stuff, there was like a fear that like we might get taken away or like different things like that.
School officials say homelessness alone is not enough of a reason to get Child Protective Services involved. But student advocates say fostering trust between schools and students is key going forward, something the pandemic and growing feelings of isolation have made even more challenging. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource investigative reporter Chloe Wynn.
And for more on this story, you can go to iNewsSource.org. iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. There is a new way to get around in Encinitas. An electric bike sharing program launched just today, and KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne shows us how it works.
Encinitas visitors will begin to see colorful electric bikes and docks on Coast Highway. Similar to other bike sharing programs, the electric bike is unlocked through a cell phone app. But this program has a major difference, says Tim Perkey with Encinitas Beach Cycle, which is running the program.
Accountability. It provides for a much nicer experience for both the rider and just the community.
To complete a ride, the cyclist must return the bike to a docking station.
You never will have bikes just abandoned in front of businesses, on sidewalks, in intersections, and anything like that.
Perkey says that the bikes are for adults 18 years and older, but in other cities, kids have still found ways to ride. But B-Cycle has set some safety limitations.
We have them limited to 15 miles an hour so that there's not going to be excessive speeding through town, and really just encouraging smart, safe cycling.
Encinitas Mayor Catherine Blakespear hopes this trial will expand to other cities.
And my hope is that we are able to have a lot more than 65 bicycles, that we can double that, and we'll have it not just at our train station, but all along the El Camino Real corridor, and people will be able to have monthly passes where they can get on their bicycle and ride it to work, and then ride back to the train station or to the bus or to however they're getting themselves back to home, and that this will be part of their commute.
30-minute rides are $7, and monthly and annual passes will be available. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.